That's really the goal with OCP, is really to take companies that are doing well now, preserving the legacy of the owners that we're obviously buying these businesses from.
I like that.
And then taking it to the next level with the goal of doing well, but also doing good. People need to sell their businesses. It's not always the case whereby, okay, you have a family business, maybe the son or the daughter doesn't want to own that business, so maybe you just have to sell the business. That's what has led me and led us to pursuing this path of acquisition entrepreneurship. I look forward to acquiring our brands and taking things from there, growing these brands to household names, and then making a positive impact in the communities that we serve.
Hi 2Xers, welcome to the 2X e-commerce podcast. I'm your host, Kunle Campbell. The 2X e-commerce podcast show is dedicated to digital commerce insights for retail and e-commerce teams. Each week on this podcast, we interview either a commerce expert, a founder of a digital native consumer brand, or a representative from a best-in-class commerce SaaS product. With a very tight remit to give you ideas you can test right away on brands that you run to improve e-commerce growth metrics such as conversions, average order value, repeat customers, your audience size, and ultimately your gross merchant value, your GMV or sales. We are here to help you sell more sustainably. Welcome to the 2X e-commerce podcast. Hey everybody, so if you're watching this on YouTube, it's a completely different setup. As you can imagine, we're in person for the first time. There is a reason for this. But just welcome to the 2X e-commerce podcast, and thank you for tuning in. This episode is a very special one. I'm joined by my business partner, Ayo Disu. Hi, Ayo.
Hey guys. Hey Kunle.
How are you doing?
Not too bad. I'm doing well, thank you.
Is this your first podcast appearance?
This is my first official podcast appearance. I went on, when I was on holiday, I went on a radio show. Very, very random.
You haven't told me about that one.
Yeah, I haven't told you about that one, but it was a very random thing. I think we went out one night and some guy was like, "Oh, you guys look really cool. You look really interesting. Would you like to come on my radio show?" And we're like, "Yeah, why not?" But yeah,
what country was that?
This was in Miami, actually.
Wow. we'll keep that for later.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it for later. But it's been interesting. We have known each other for close to a year now. I think it was February, March of 21.
Yes, more than a year, actually.
Yeah, and we're building something. And I thought, okay, this format is the best way to bring it to the fore and just let the audience know about what we're doing. But before we jump right into that, to give people kind of like an idea of what we're doing or a glimpse into what we're doing, I'd like you to give a bit about your background. Who is Ayo?
Okay, so yeah, I can just give you a brief synopsis of like who I am. So born in Lagos, Nigeria, I then came over to England for boarding school and then just schooled here more or less. Then worked in private equity for a while for a $200 million fund called Vert Capital, doing buy-side work. So like I was exposed to industries like TMT, consumer goods, financial services.
What is TMT?
TMT is technology, media, and telecoms.
I've been wanting to ask you that. Because you've said that like 30 times.
Yeah,
and
I know.
Like, okay, just... Okay.
Oh, no, but
Right.
no, but I'm glad. Yeah, TMT is just, technology, media, and telecoms. So yeah, doing that, looking at some deals there. Then after that, did a master's at Cass Business School in management. After that, worked for a family office, leading their digital transformation and fundraising initiatives, which was pretty successful. And it kind of opened my eyes into like this digital world and this digital first world, and actually led me to doing another master's in business innovation with e-business, something that you and I share a passion for. And then after that, really, I think OCP was just born and we connected.
What is OCP?
So OCP is Octillion Capital Partners for full. What we do is that we're looking to acquire diamond in the rough e-commerce businesses, so direct-to-consumer businesses as well as marketplace businesses, with the goal of improving the operational efficiencies by looking at a customer-centric, socially conscious, and omni-channel expansion approach that could potentially unlock retail opportunities for these brands, as well as fundraising opportunities for these brands. And with the brilliant head of Kunle Campbell leading our operational activities, as well as helping with the sourcing and diligence of these businesses, we're really onto something.
Okay, I would accept the accolades there, but I'll give you my own story. So I have this never-ending, I think I've mentioned it in the podcast, where I'm writing a book. I have this never-ending project, but touch wood, it will happen. So I was essentially searching. I was trying to write a bio for the book, and I recall when I was essentially searching for universities, for masters back in the noughties. And I applied for to University of Birkbeck, Warwick, and I forgot the third one. It starts with an M.
Was it Newcastle?
No, it's in London.
Middlesex.
No, it's in London.
M.
It starts with an M. No. It starts with W.
Westminster.
Westminster, I think. Yeah. I think it's University of Westminster, and they all had e-business degrees, and 2 of them rejected me.
Wow.
Birkbeck and Westminster.
And you went Warwick.
And then Warwick, the top number 7 or something, top 7 school accepted me, and I just told my folks, bye-bye, I'll see you guys later.
Such is life. I'm off to Coventry.
I'm off to Cov. But yeah, so I was trying to sort of joggle my memory on Birkbeck, and then your profile popped up, e-business. I tapped out e-business, Birkbeck.
Yeah,
your profile popped up. And months prior, I'd been reading a lot about private equity. Mm-hmm. I got an audiobook. When I want to get into stuff, I would tend to read at least 3 or 4 books around the stuff or listen to podcasts. I would search through Spotify or iTunes. So I came across your profile, hit the LinkedIn. I was like, well, this is what I'm doing. Let me just hit you up. Mm-hmm. We had a meeting. I think you put in your notion as low priority, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. I don't.
No, eventually.
No.
That's how most stories start.
I think I don't remember what happened, because I remember you sent me a message, but I think I didn't respond for maybe like a day or 2. I think I was just a little bit busy, and then we finally caught up, and then I was just like, whoa, this guy is. I just like the approach, the way you came about it was just so nice. And then obviously when we finally spoke, I think it was around like February or March, like an Easter
right,
there was like a bank holiday or something, and then we just really got on.
Yeah.
And just like the openness from your end was just, for me, was, most people would think that shows weakness, but for me it just showed your strength. And it was it's been a pleasure.
I think my missus says it's TMI,
too much information.
Yeah, she keeps nudging me. TMI. That's a story for another episode. But yeah, it was that, and I looked into what you were doing at OCP, and we just kept things going.
Yeah.
But I think one thing that struck me was how organized you were, how just prepared you were with what you were doing, from a search fund standpoint, an acquisition company standpoint, and we synergized a bit, dipped our feet in the waters just a little bit.
Yeah.
We've been through about 300 deals. 350 deals. We hired an exec, over there, Sahil at the time, who was going through deal flow for us, and we're gonna make an acquisition, weren't we?
Yeah.
And our thoughts we go further up the value chain, right? It's been incredible. We've spoken to like 60 or so, founders, sellers of their businesses, and for some of these guys, it's life changing.
Yeah, it's life changing.
It's life changing. Some are stuck with the businesses. Others want to do something more meaningful. Others have hit a plateau in terms of know-how and finances, and we've just spotted an opportunity for undervalued businesses and people keen to sell their e-commerce businesses.
Yeah.
What would you say our mission is. I know you talked about acquiring, building, growing culture, defining, commerce brands. What deeply, what is the mission of OCP?
I think for us, we're obviously looking to take these businesses to a new level that could not only make a significant impact in like the finances, but also in the community for each one of those businesses. So if we buy a business that is, I don't know, that has roots to maybe some kind of like wildlife preservation or something like that, we can obviously look to do something good in that space also. So I think it's really like we're in a unique position because we're going to own portfolio companies, and each of those portfolio companies might be in different maybe areas, and we can maybe have an impact in all those different areas. So I think that's really the goal with OCP, is really to take companies that are doing well now, preserving the legacy of the owners that we're obviously buying these businesses from.
I like that.
And then taking it to the next level with the goal of doing well, but also doing good.
Yeah, kind of like a parent when, their child has done well.
Yeah.
So that's my child.
Yes.
That's my child.
That's my
yes.
child. That's
on
my
the stage,
child.
On the
Yes.
stage.
Yeah.
Nigerian parents,
Nigerian.
Right?
You have to do well. You must do well.
But yeah, makes a ton of sense. Should we kind of give some how we're thinking, like our criteria on potential businesses we're looking to? I think one thing to note that sets us apart is the fact that we're boutique.
Yeah.
We're looking at a limited number of acquisitions over the next few years. I want to speak to why we're doing what we're doing. We spoke about the mission, but why are we? I mean, you've worked in private equity, you've worked in a family office. These are substantial organizations. So why the route of the entrepreneur? It's rough.
Yeah, the route of the entrepreneur is rough, but we have to be very cognizant of the new type of entrepreneur, which is the acquisition entrepreneur, which is what we are and what we're essentially looking to do, because we're looking to buy businesses and take them from more or less like 1 to 2, as opposed to take them from 0 to 2. And I think that's obviously easier, and I think that's where our skill sets lie, to take businesses that already have proof of concept and then just take them to the next level using our skills, expertise, partnerships with key partners that we have, and just building the right team. So that's really where I'm going. And again, in the States now, you're seeing this thing with the SBA loan, because essentially what we have is a transition of ownership from baby boomers to like millennials, to like Gen Zs, in which we're transitioning business assets from obviously the baby boomers to millennials, who are now the greatest percentage in the workforce at the moment. And people need to sell their businesses. And it's not always the case whereby, okay, you have a family business, maybe the son or the heir doesn't want, or the daughter doesn't want to own that business. So maybe you just have to sell the business. So that's really what has led me and led us to obviously pursuing this path of acquisition entrepreneurship and this buy and build model. So yeah, I think that's really what it is.
And I do think that, from an acquisition standpoint, you're buying traction.
You're buying time.
And with the right systems in place, you could shoot it to the moon. So, literally, you could, if you know what you're doing, you've done your diligence on the market in which they operate, on how the operators are currently operating it, there is a lot of potential to further drive growth. Which is fascinating in itself. And I think you speak for both of us in regards to why. For me, it's about freedom for the sellers. Just giving them life-changing, their retirement fund in many cases. Some people want to do more meaningful things. Giving it to them, handing over the baton, and we being caretakers, essentially, patrons to the legacy they've built, and further grow them significantly, which is fascinating in itself.
I think you said it on one of the investor calls, which is, you said, I think they asked you this question, and then you said it's financial liberation through exit for sellers.
Absolutely. You said it better now.
No, I had some time to think about it.
All right. Great stuff. Should we? So we're in a capital raise now. 5 million is what we're looking to raise. There's been a lot of traction thus far, and we're looking to close when Q1.
Yeah, before the end of Q1, really, with the way we're going. So yeah, it's very exciting times, and I think it's just really about obviously just putting our heads down and just doing the work, let the work speak for us, and that's kind of it. But yeah, very, very exciting times.
Okay, so with the fund, how's that going to work?
So our acquisition overview is that we're targeting 4 acquisitions. We're looking to buy businesses between the range of like 700K to 2 million, with 1.5 million being our sweet spot for these businesses. Looking to obviously grow these businesses with a time horizon of like, let's say 7 years, more or less. Focus geographies that we're looking at is, I think it's North America, the UK, and Europe, with a focus in Europe of like Germany, Spain, and France, I believe. And yeah, I think that's a little bit of our acquisition overview, more or less.
Yeah. And for the target companies, they have to have a moat component to in them. So be it an active community. Retention, as exemplified in their retention rates, they should be profitable businesses already. Most of them would be turning profits of between 300K to 500K per year, because most of them would be 30% gross margins.
Net margin,
sorry.
What they should be operating for 2 years or more.
2 years, yeah.
Just giving us ability to obviously study the patterns, identify trends, so we can make informed decisions. Should we acquire the business?
Yeah.
We want a positive and ethical business. We don't want anything. We're not looking for dropshipping businesses or anything like that. We want real brands that we can grow for the long term and just make them culture defining, like we say. And then again, in terms of sustainability, we're also on the lookout for people that are just doing things that are helping the planet. And we're not saying there's no greenwashing here. It's just, this is a big macro trend, and this is something that myself and Casey care about. So we need to make sure that we are thinking about this, and we're also looking out for businesses that like this. We're not saying we're going to be buying a business that is sustainable from the ground up. But if we see one that meets our criteria, we definitely will. But it's just really trying to do some things. So like as we acquire these businesses, we'll be doing things like implementing an offset at checkout, creating clear recycling policies, maybe adding or updating like the brand ethos, adding new sustainable products, things like that. Essentially, just small changes.
Yeah, and I think today's consumers really care about how they consume, how things are produced, and how things are disposed.
Yeah.
And so if the numbers make sense, and an operator is building something sustainable from ground up, we'll be onto it.
Yeah.
We'll be no doubt onto it. It's really important, for the planet, for consumers, and for longevity, really, to keep us all going. Let's talk about how we think from a macro trend standpoint. You just made mention on macro trends. Very, very important. We talk about it. Should we give an example or two? I mean, there was a time we spoke to, like a macro trend is electric cars, right? Yeah. Under sustainability, under the umbrella of sustainability. Do you want to give an overview of this founder you spoke with? I didn't get on that call, but you got on the call with him. So what was the thinking going into electric, vehicles? And
yeah, so I think obviously for us at OCP, the way we think about our deal sourcing is that we take a very macro focused view. So looking at or identifying patterns that are shaping the world. And then we can then tailor our sourcing activity based on those patterns. So, for example, like with this sustainability company that we could have acquired, was this seller. He was selling accessories for Tesla owners, so exclusively just for people that had Tesla cars. And young chap, very, very bright, very, very hardworking guy. And he was doing more or less like 7 million in revenue with around, I think, 32% net margins, more or less. And what that just tells me, and again, he was looking to sell the business and move on to something because it wasn't really his passion. I think he was having maybe some like family things, so he wanted like some liquidity or some enhanced liquidity. And what that's just kind of like telling me from a sourcing perspective is that we just have to think about these things before we acquire business. We're not just acquiring businesses because they are profitable. We need to acquire businesses that have the right industry tailwind behind us, so we can actually acquire the business and then accelerate growth backed by industry tailwind. So that's kind of like how we're thinking. I don't know if you have anything to add.
No. Backed by industry tailwind. It's so important. It's momentum, really, and we're going in the right direction, essentially. Following those macro trends, and then we're potentially looking at roll-up strategy in that respect, if need be. It all depends on what we see when we land. Is about landing first, and then absorbing the landscape and then making the right, moves and decisions off the back of it, really.
Couldn't have said it better.
So that's fairly important. What else should we cover? Earnouts, so we're not a run-of-the-mill operation. It's about earnouts. Should we give entrepreneurs listening to this episode just some guidelines on how to prep up, their house for potential, acquisitions, not necessarily from us, but to get the highest value, in the market? I think that is valuable. Do you have any tips to operators?
Any tips I can just say is, one, make sure you have a business bank account that's separate from your personal account.
Absolutely.
I think we dealt with a seller that their finances were just a bit muddled up, and what that just does is that increases time and also just complexity. Any other thing I would say is kind of just get all your assets ready. So for example, if you like P&L, stuff like that, maybe any like screenshots, things like that, just have them in like a file ready to go. So if any potential maybe buyer wants to access some of these things quickly, you just have it there. It just makes it more of a professional and a seamless process, as opposed to if they're asking you for this, you have to wait for this, you have to wait for this. It just, buyers can get frustrated because they're seeing a lot of things in the market. So as long as you're kind of like prep and really ready to sell, I would say the other thing is really understanding the multiples of your business. Obviously, your business is not valued based on your revenue; it's based on your net profit. So just kind of really understanding, okay, I need to take out all the cost to sell. I need to take out the expenses, and then I can then get at my net figure, and then obviously use the appropriate multiple to value that business. And then again, I would say be flexible to different structures. So some, like you said, the earnout is one structure. Maybe you might even reinvest, like roll over maybe like a portion of your money into the business, so you're actually an investor in that business moving forward. So just different things. If you can read any books or listen to any videos, I'm sure. I think there's a Shopify actually have like a guide as to how to buy a business as well as how to sell a business. So maybe just looking at some resources like that.
That makes a ton of sense. And then I think the only thing I'll add there would be just processes. Make sure you codify everything in your organization. So it's almost like a turnkey. You're handing over somebody a system, the buyer a system. With that, I think you're good to go. You're maximizing your multiples and build your brand. Your brand, folks.
Yeah.
Build your brand.
I think that's one thing that we should definitely say more like brand. We're all about the brand. We love the brand.
Yeah,
we want to buy real consumer brands that elicit like real passion, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Good stuff. Okay, so speaking of brand or branding, what are your thoughts on like brand equity? I have mine. I'll share mine.
I think you should share yours, Casey.
You reckon?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so if you don't have a brand book, like if you don't have an identity, if like I go into your Instagram feed and I don't know who, and I remove your name, your username on Instagram, and I browse through your feed, top level and I don't know who you are, you're doing a bad job at branding. And that should also sort of translate on other experiences. Branding is about experiences and feelings, right? It's very primal. It really should touch people emotionally. It should trigger an emotion when, people sort of come across it. For the just much more quantifiable bits of branding, you should have your brand book. Everything should be in order. So if an acquirer is coming to acquire your brand, they know your branding systems. You should have systems, not just systems on how we fulfill orders or how we buy media. You should have a brand system, and that maximizes it. But it's really about the feeling it really delivers to people, to your audience, to your community. And I think the outcome of branding is community. Sometimes you could brand with words, with certain words and products. If all of what you're doing is just colors and typography, and it doesn't really translate to bring in, people together as a community or through events or what have you, you've not necessarily done, the full job on branding essentially. We'll wrap up now. But before we wrap up, I just want to say that, this personally as an Octillion Capital Partners, for me, it's legacy building. And from my personal point of view, I've, served, in the industry for a while, as a helper. And I'm still a helper, in the industry. But just moving into, ownership, just being an operator is very key, right? And that's one big reason I'm in Octillion. Ayo, do you have any final words?
I'm just very excited about the future. I look forward to just acquiring our brands and just really taking things from there, just really growing these brands to household names, really, and then just obviously making a positive impact in the communities that we serve. So really looking forward to it, really looking forward to working with Casey and just building the team, because we have a couple of very, very interesting people in the pipeline that we're going to be bringing on should everything go according to plan. Yeah,
we've been having some really interesting conversations with potential members of our team, all A players, which is just exciting. Thank you for those of you who want to find out more. It's octillioncapitalpartners.com, or just Google Octillion Capital Partners or Google Ayo Disu or Kunle. I'll link to it in the show notes anyway. Thank you for listening. You're going to get much more shows in this format. I like the in-person. I just like the in-person experience. It is different from Zoom. Completely different. I think my challenge is getting guests to Oxford, because we're recording here in Oxford. God bless you. You've come all the way from London.
It's not a 53-minute trip.
53 minutes. So it might be we have a London studio and the Oxford studio. We'll do something, but expect more shows in this format. So thank you for watching if this is on YouTube, and thank you for listening on any other podcast platform. Cheers, guys.